Hi, MMEN VC class of 2019. I've put a video together for you just to give you feedback on the assignment that you submitted. First, I must acknowledge I've used Brett's slide from the presentation he did. I like the cover page or the front slide, so I use that. So, courtesy of Brett. Thank you, Brett. Okay, so I want us to look at what you submitted in terms of the research instrument, some of the mistakes that were common that you guys made, and just some advice in terms of how you can improve your research instrument. And I hope that you will improve it before you go do your pilot study. If you have already started with your pilot study, just take a break and improve it and redistribute your instrument again so that you get data that you'll be able to analyze at the end of the day. Okay, so let's start by looking first at the variables. What kind of variables should you use and why should you choose a specific variable? So let's use the research report template. So in chapter 2, you will have spoken about your different constructs that you are looking at that you would like to analyze at the end of the day. And those constructs, when you get to the data analysis side, you're going to operationalize them. And when you operationalize them, you're going to have them as variables. And those variables now become something that you can measure. So when you go collect your data, it becomes something that is measurable. That's what we mean by operationalizing your constructs. So there are different levels of measurement. We've discussed this in class that you have your nominal, you've got your ordinal, interval, and ratio kind of measurement. And what you want you ideally is to have what we call continuous data, because continuous data allows you to do a lot of things. So you become more flexible when you use continuous data because you can use your parametric testing, but with other types, then you need to use special kinds of analysis. Sometimes, sorry, sometimes you need to go to non-parametric, and that can be tricky. We didn't do that as well in class. So try as much as possible that you get continuous data. And when you try to make your ordinal data, which is mostly what most of you have used, from the assignment that I've marked, at least use 7-point Likert scale. That gives you a bit more variability in your data, and it tends to follow the normal distribution very closely. So stick to that so that it's easy for you to measure, to make it measurable and to analyze it. So that's the advice I have for you, that try to stick to continuous data. And the variables, when you use your variables, the data you collect must be continuous, and that allows you to do a lot of things and be flexible. Okay. Okay, the next thing is that you want to be able to quantify and analyze whatever that you have collected. And what will help you with that is to first think of your study. Is it exploratory or explanatory kind of study? Are you trying to measure and analyze relationships? Are you doing a comparative study, or is just descriptive kind of information that you are trying to gather? So that, if you understand that, then that will help you decide better in terms of whether you need a dependent and an independent variable, whether you need mediating and moderating variables, and then all that is based on the kind of research that you are doing. So be clear: is it exploratory? Is it explanatory? Are you analyzing relationships, any influences or effect of one variable to the other? Are you comparing groups, certain groups, independent or dependent kind of groups? So you need to be very clear on that, because that helps you understand the kind of variables that you need to have, which will be guided basically by your hypothesis and your research questions that you will have in the first two chapters. One that becomes common, the demographic data, that one you need to have irrespective of the study that you do, unless your unit of analysis is really different, where you're not really collecting data about individuals. Maybe you're collecting data just about organizations, and that data is not related to the individuals. Then there you might not have demographic data, or you might just collect demographic data based on the person that gave you the information, but it won't be related to really what you are trying to analyze. And also at the same time, if it's secondary data, sometimes you might find that there are no demographic variables there, but if it's secondary data where you can also get the demographic data, please do get that. It just gives a bit of context to the person who's reading or looking at your results, so that they know whether it was based on a lot of females or fewer females, the race, and all those kind of things. So at least make sure you've got the different variables when you collect. Don't realize later that, oh, I forgot to collect that, because it becomes difficult once we have collected to go back and collect the data again. So make sure. And just a few things that I noticed that you made mistakes on in terms of the variable. Okay, let's continue. So some of the things that you just need to check now when you sitting and designing your questionnaire on Qualtrics. First, make sure you've got an introduction or a cover page. What I mean by that is where you introduce yourself, you say the objective of the study, you say that you are a student, this is part of your research, and you're a student from the Best Business School. You tell the potential respondent or how long you think the completion of that question is going to take them, so that people are able to plan their time. So when they sit and complete, they know it's going to take me 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or whatever. And don't lie. Be honest about how long it's going to take to complete your survey. And to be more realistic, or to be more accurate on that, get somebody else to complete the questionnaire and let them complete in one go, and then check the time as to how long it took them, and then be able to estimate more realistically as to how long it's going to take a person to complete. Ethics issue, you need to ensure the people of anonymity, that it is optional. There are no benefits in completing the study. They can decide to opt out anytime. So you need to make all those things clear, so that you meet the ethical requirement standards. Contact details, make sure you put your email address and your supervisor's email address, and be clear which details are for who, in case people want to contact you or want to contact your supervisor for whatever reason. And the introduction, you don't want a person, first page, the introduction, the person has to read a whole page of long stories. Everything, keep it short, because once the person is tired from the introduction page, he's never going to get to completing the the questionnaire itself. So keep everything short and make sure they consent, they're comfortable completing. Don't just assume people when they complete the consent. You need to have an option for them to say that they consent. And then the other part, the demographic information that you need to collect. Basically, this one is just information. It can be it's most of the time categorical data, because this one really you're going to use frequency tables or pie charts, whatever, to present that data. So there's no issue here and restriction as to continuous data and that, because this is just to give a view of your sample characteristics. Where it becomes important to pay attention to the variables is now when you get to your key constructs that you will have extracted from your hypothesis, because here you want to make sure that everything is measurable. So this is where the issue of operationalizing your constructs comes into play. And the quality of the questions that you ask, make sure you keep it simple. This is not a place to show people how big English words you can use, because not everybody who will complete your questionnaire is comfortable with English. Some people, it's not their first language, so you have to keep it very simple English. Avoid ambiguous statements or questions where people have to think twice and read the question several times before they understand what is it exactly we are trying to ask them. And conjunctions, don't ask two things in one question, like you're saying a person, maybe, are you confident and comfortable and competent about blah blah blah. The person ends up not knowing whether he needs to answer the question about the competence or about the confidence or about being comfortable. So one construct at a time, and also one question straightforward. If you want to ask about confidence and being comfortable, then you split the questions into two so that people are not confused. Because if it's like that, one person will answer on the confidence, another person will answer on comfortability, another one answers on competence. So you need to be clear on that, just one question at a time. And the look and feel, play around Qualtrics. You can only get this right if you play around it, but you need your questionnaire to look professional, to breathe, so that people don't feel exhausted too quick by just looking at it being everything close together. So let it breathe, let it have space, use the coding and the blocks to make sections, numbering and all that, and make sure there's logic, there's certain sequence that people will follow when they're completing it, so that they don't struggle and they can complete quickly. Some of the mistakes I picked up as I was marking your assignment, some people didn't have an introduction at all. First question or first page, it went, what is your gender? You don't want that. You want to introduce it before you start asking the question. Some didn't have demographic section. You need to have that. At least we expect that you'll have gender, race, education, and age in your questionnaire. So I expect everybody to have that, unless it's for the other reasons I've mentioned of secondary data or unit of analysis being a total different story. This one, really, I find some people, they just copy pasted the introduction from the first statement, didn't change anything. It's like they're asking about validity and reliability of skills. That was for that assignment. We are not trying to get information about validity and reliability. Use your own objective from your own study to introduce your study. So plagiarism, copy pasting, that's where I say really. So you see that people didn't apply themselves. And I saw most of you didn't have any reverse questions, so everything was going the same direction. Then you might have an issue here there where people don't apply themselves. So you might want to reverse some of your question. As I've said earlier, one construct at a time. Don't try to ask too many things in one question. Use the blocks for your different sections. If you've got different constructs, try to have all the questions for one construct, make it a section, be in one section. That helps a lot. So please try to do that. I saw most of you didn't do that. And be consistent. So if in your key construct you have used 7-point Likert scale from other people's scales, try to keep that sequence even when we've got ranges on other things. It makes it just easy and simple for you when you start sorting out your data. You don't have to have different formats and all that, because you've got one has got two options. There are those things that, like gender, you can't have 7 options. So there are those things that are obvious, but in terms of the key constructs, try to keep it simple and straightforward. There must be logic behind the ranges, but must be consistent. So don't just have ranges that you don't know why you've got them like that, and be realistic, as I said earlier, about the time. Make it mobile compatible. As most people just copied what we had in the previous assignment, and then they say this is only compatible for desktop. There's a option in Qualtrics that you can use to make your thing compatible to mobile, because as we notice this, most people use their mobile phones. Don't waste people's time.